What is the sound of one hand clapping?
I don't know. What is the sound of one? Oh!
You can hear the sound of two hands when they clap together, said Mukurai. Now show me the sound of one hand. In vain, Toyo meditated to hear the sound of one hand. He heard the sighing of the wind, but the sound was rejected. He heard the cry of an owl. This also was refused. The sound of one hand was not the locust. For more than 10 times, Toyo visited Mukurai with different sounds. All were wrong. Hello, and welcome to the Ancient Wisdom Modern Mind podcast. And today, I would like to share the Zen Koan, the sound of one hand clapping. Zen is at its very core a not doing or state of no mind, direct action without the intervention of the intellect. The Zen master does not teach the student about the nature of mindfulness, but instead allows the student to discover through their own effort the state of no mind. If you are unfamiliar with the term Kōan, then in short, Kōan means riddle or puzzle that Zen Buddhists use to help them unravel greater truths about the world and about themselves. And although at first glance the Kōan may seem like an unsolvable intellectual paradox, it is in fact a tool used to cut into and then break through the ego's intellectual barrier so as to break up any preconceived notions of intellectual superiority which may be preventing the student from perceiving the true nature of awareness. What is the sound of one hand clapping? The sound of one hand clapping is a Japanese Zen Koan given to novices starting Zen training. The novice contemplates the meaning of the riddle, and the nature of the answer is intended to invoke a paradigm shift in the novice's understanding of Zen. The novice is not expected to solve the riddle since it is an exercise in contemplation, and the novice will in time be given the correct answer by his Zen teacher. The acceptable answer is for the novice to face this teacher, take a correct posture, and silently extend one hand forward. This symbolizes an accepting of reality as it is. The intellect has become tranquil and accepting of its lack of understanding. So here is the Zen Koan, the sound of one hand clapping. The master of Kennin-ji Temple was Mukurai, meaning silent thunder, and he had a young protege named Toyo, who was only 12 years old. Toyo saw the older disciples visit the master's room each morning and evening to receive sanzen. Sanzen means going to a Zen master for instruction or personal guidance. Toyo wished to also receive sanzen. "Wait a while," said Mukurai. "You are too young." But the child insisted, so the teacher finally consented. In the evening, little Toyo went at the proper time to the threshold of Mukurai's sanzen room. He struck the gong to announce his presence, bowed respectively 3 times outside the door, and went to sit before the master in respectful silence. "You can hear the sound of 2 hands when they clap together," said Mukurai. "Now show me the sound of one hand." Toyo bowed and went to his room to consider this problem. From his window, he could hear the music of the geishas. "Ah, I have it," he proclaimed. The next evening, when his teacher asked him to illustrate the sound of one hand, Toyo began to play the music of the geishas. "No, no," said Mukurai, "that will never do. This is not the sound of one hand. You've not got it at all." Thinking that such music might interrupt, Toyo moved his abode to a quiet place. He meditated again. What can the sound of one hand be? he happened to hear some water dripping. "I have it," imagined Toyo. When he next appeared before his teacher, Toyo imitated dripping water. "What is that?" asked Mukarai. Toyo replied, "That is the sound of dripping water." "But not the sound of one hand," said Mukarai. "Try again." In vain, Toyo meditated to hear the sound of one hand. He heard the sighing of the wind, but the sound was rejected. He heard the cry of an owl. This also was refused. The sound of one hand was not the locust. For more than 10 times, Toyo visited Mukarai with different sounds. All were wrong. For almost a year, he pondered what the sound of one hand might be. At last, little Toyo entered true meditation and transcended all sounds. "I could collect no more," he explained later, "so I reached the soundless sound." Toyo had realized the sound of one hand. Maybe you noticed Toyo's use of the word collect. Toyo's mind had attempted to collect information about sounds in order to solve the koan. Thus he first collected the sounds of music, and when this failed, he tried collecting natural sounds. Toyo's mind attempted to apply deductive reasoning in order to solve the koan, yet he failed again and again. Finally, Toyo's mind gave up trying to solve the koan and actually practiced mindful meditation. This koan truly embodies the Zen philosophy of contemplative observation. The Zen master cleverly instructs the student by allowing the student to become their own teacher. The koan forces the student to experience the nature of mind directly. The student's first lesson is that Zen is at its very core a not doing or state of no mind. Direct action without the intervention of the intellect. The Zen master does not teach the student about the nature of mindfulness, but instead allows the student to discover through their own effort the state of no mind. So that's the sound of one hand clapping. I've enjoyed sharing my thoughts with you. And if you have the time, then let me know in the comments about your understanding of the sound of one hand clapping, or how meditation has changed your life. And for a deeper understanding of Zen, then I suggest you also listen to the podcast, The Samurai and the Tea Master. This Zen tale explores the idea of no mind, or where to put the mind. And if you like the podcast, I would like to also take a moment to remind you to subscribe to this channel or sign up to the newsletter if you would like to be notified when I release new content. And if you would like to support my work, then you can download the podcast for a small supporter's remuneration. Links are in the description. Here's to you and your fulfillment and growth into every tomorrow to come.